that we have put forth and have emphasized. Just as I mentioned the other day, there are two dynamic forces that are going on at the same time. You're having the natural course of an outbreak trying to peak at a high level, and then you have the mitigation strategies which are aimed at dampening that. We've mentioned that multiple times. We often get asked, how do you know you're having an effect? Because there are two things that are going on at the same time. They may be confounding. Well, I can tell you for sure, from a public health standpoint and experience with other outbreaks, we know we are clearly having an effect, but we can't quantitate it for you accurately now, because looking forward, you'll know what the impact of the rate of these steep inclines will be. So that's why we're going to come back to you every day and keep you up to date about that. Getting with regard to the disproportionate of the response, everyone, it's right here, I'll get to open up the Vice President's book with his permission. This is baseline for everyone.
Hello, các bạn đang nghe bác sĩ Fauci đưa ra cái hướng dẫn 15 ngày để làm giảm tốc độ lây lan của coronavirus.
And much more robust, if you want to use that word. And that's the reason why we've seen the mitigation ratcheted up in that regard. And again, hopefully, and I have confidence it will happen, you will see an impact on that. Next, getting to testing. You saw the numbers with testing. Remember, there was always an issue with testing. I think we're getting to the solution that everybody in the country is looking for. But I want to emphasize one thing that Admiral Jawad mentioned, is that not every single person in the United States needs to get tested. He gave you the priorities. I don't want to repeat them, but let me tell you one of the unintended consequences of individuals who don't need to get tested that flood the desire to get tested. Currently, and I hope we'll be able to change it and make it much less reliable on PPEs, when you go in and get tested, you are consuming personal protective equipment, masks and gowns. Those are high priority for the healthcare workers who are taking care of people who have coronavirus disease. So what we don't want to do is to have a situation where we do have disparities in availability of PPEs now, and we're working hard to correct that. But currently today, we want to make sure that the people who are taking care of people with coronavirus disease do not endanger themselves because they don't have the personal protective equipment. And then finally, one last thing was just mentioned, the Surgeon General has been pushing this. Please put off, cancel elective medical and surgical procedures. You don't want to not ever do them, but for the time being, don't do them, because they also not only consume personal protective equipment, they may also consume some of the things like ventilators that you might need. So let's pull in this together and we will get through it. I promise you. Thank you.
Thank you, General, very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. FEMA is now leading the federal operation or the federal response for all operations on behalf of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, who oversees this whole of nation response. HHS will continue to provide their expert matter expertise on health, and pursuant to the nationwide emergency declaration, FEMA, in coordination with HHS, is assisting state, local, tribal, territorial governments and their other eligible entities with health and safety emergency protective measures on behalf of the American public. As of yesterday, 50 states, the District of Columbia, 5 territories, and 1 tribe are working directly with FEMA under the nationwide emergency declaration for COVID-19. In just 24 hours, we've obligated $100 million to states, territories, and tribes. A little bit about supplies. It is of the utmost importance that requests for assistance, especially for critical supplies, get routed through proper channels as soon as possible. And we ask everyone to follow the normal procedures FEMA uses in a natural disaster. There's no different procedure for the COVID-19 pandemic. But remember, you can still order supplies.
Xin lỗi các bạn nghe, mình tạm tắt cái này để livestream lại nha. Nó bị lỗi màn hình cái.
around the clock in a very patriotic way to serve their fellow